lot of times where leaders go wrong is they don't communicate transparently through the organization, through their other leaders. And so if I don't know where you're going, I can't help you get there. If you want to spark a growth mindset, be very transparent with where you're going, why you're going there, and then how others can contribute to make that happen.
Hey everyone, it's Tamara Thompson with Broadcast Your Authority, and I'm super excited for our next guest who's tapping in virtually with us. I wish he could be here in person. I was like, next time. We've got Mick Hunt, is a redefining modern leadership, helping executives and entrepreneurs lead with purpose, influence, and impact. He's a CEO of Premier Strategy Box and the host of Mick Unplugged, where he challenges outdated leadership paradigms, inspiring leaders to uncover their deeper because, which I find very interesting on that topic. And he's up there in the top. He's got an incredible podcast. I literally have binge listened to many episodes of that. Mick has, with over 20 years, insurance industry and consulting. Mick also has built a reputation for transforming organizations and unlocking executive potential. His approach goes beyond strategy. He empowers leaders to embrace their why, knowing true success isn't just about what they do, but why they do it. And that is so important for people to understand today. Mick, welcome so much to joining the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here with you virtually.
Well, I love your backdrop. I love the color tones. You're on brand. I was like, this is awesome. I love the jacket. So thank you so much.
Totally appreciate it.
Well, tell us a little bit, so you have like a large consulting background. You're in the insurance industry, and then you stepped into the podcasting space. I'm just curious, what inspired you? We'll get a little bit more about your backstory, but how are you inspired to tap into the podcasting space? I just want to kind of dive into that first.
You know what's crazy is I actually didn't want to start a podcast. What I wanted to do was just create more video content on YouTube. And two of my really good friends who were in the podcasting space were like, Mick, you should start a podcast. And I told them no for literally 6 months. And then one of my mentors, Les Brown, said, Mick, if you start a podcast, I'll be your first guest. Well, that kind of changed it a little bit, right? Coming out of the gate with Les Brown as a guest. And then I have some really, really cool friends like Kenny Anderson and Merrill Hodge and Robert Irvine. And so they all said they would do it. And so literally, I just wanted to start a podcast to help people understand their because for me, that's what helped me get to the different levels of success. And success means something different to everyone. But your because is what centers you to achieve that said success.
What is your because?
Yeah.
Great question. So my because is very simple. It's the promise that I keep. And it started when I was 10 years old, and I wanted to help my mom and my sister get out of our family environment, our family structure. And, when I initially say that, everyone thinks immediately, oh, well, it was poverty or it was grief-stricken. And it wasn't that. My mom, for the first 10 years of my life, literally every day, experienced some type of abuse, whether that was physical, emotional, financial, sometimes even sexual abuse from my father, who lived in the same household. And I wanted to change that. I didn't want that to be the norm for not only myself, but like I said, for my sister and for my mom, and then my brother who was born later. I promised my mom and my sister that I was going to change their lives. At 10, I didn't know how that was going to be, but because I made that promise, every single decision that I made, every action that I took was to fulfill that promise. As I got older and I had kids, I made promises to my kids. And so I wanted to fulfill those promises. My teams that I lead, I give them and make promises to them. And so I want to fulfill those. My close circle of family and friends, I fulfill a promise to them. So my because is literally my word, my bond, and the promise that I prepare to keep to those that it matters to.
That's incredible. I can already tell, and from the conversations we've had off podcast interviews, I could tell you're a man of integrity, and I love that about you and your mission and your story and your because.
So you're doing a lot to fulfill for others. What are you doing to fulfill for yourself?
Just giving back to other people. I think it's my duty to give back, to teach, to bring awareness to different things. There are a lot of people in this world and in different communities, and I know all of you are that same way, right? Where you feel a purpose to help others get over, whether it's getting over a hump, whether it's showing them a shortcut, whether it's helping them get to different levels of success. Like, that fulfills me. I have conversations with my accountability partners and mentors all the time. People talk about being happy or finding joy. But I always say, well, what about fulfillment? To me, fulfillment matters more than happiness. Fulfillment matters more than joy, because it's something that you can truly feel. And so that's why I do what I do. And that's what makes me fulfilled, is giving back.
I love that. And you really are a true leader, and you've built success in your companies. And I'm sure you've taught leaders within your own companies. What do you think? What's the key leadership traits of individuals or even business owners looking to scale their companies through the success stories that you've seen? What are some of the things that you'd add to that point?
Yeah. So to me, there's 4 traits that all great leaders or good leaders have. And I go back in history and I've studied this forever. The first trait is that a good leader, a great leader, is always present, right? You're always felt, you're always around, you're always available for your team. And so being available, being present is number 1. The second thing that all good and great leaders do, they know their teams better than their teams know themselves, meaning they know how their team is going to make decisions. They understand the right situations to put their teams in. They understand the right environments, the right culture to have for their teams to thrive. The third thing is they know how to move the stool. Meaning, I don't know if I'm a big boxing fan, right? And I know a lot of you may not remember Muhammad Ali stood in between rounds. And it came from a fight where his coach and trainer, Angelo Dundee, made him stand. He was very tired. He was feeling weak. And he moved the stool and said, stand tall and face your opponent. And what that did is it caused his opponent to quit, right? Because his opponent was also tired. And he was like, well, if Ali can stand during rounds, there's no way that when the bell rings, I'm going to be able to withstand that. And so a good leader knows how to make their team stand tall in adversity because they know them. And then the fourth thing that all great leaders do is they speak less, but they say more. Meaning they understand that their words are important and they know how and when to use them. So those are the 4 things, the 4 traits that all great leaders have.
Wow. And I have a question. What would you say how come leaders develop that growth mindset in their teams to just inspire their teams for a business expansion or growth?
Yeah. And you hit it on the head, inspire, right? A lot of times we talk about motivating, but we're leading adults. We're leading key individuals who are leaders in their household. And what do you have to do to have that growth mindset? The first thing you have to do is share the vision. A lot of times, especially, we're in 2025, right? A lot of times where leaders go wrong is they don't communicate transparently through the organization, through their other leaders. And so if I don't know where you're going, I can't help you get there. And so if you want to spark a growth mindset, be very transparent with where you're going, why you're going there, and then how others can contribute to make that happen. And that's where the growth mindset starts for me.
What are some common leadership mistakes that hinder scaling, and how can that be avoided?
Yeah, leaders do a lot of bad things. Like we talk about, I'm going to empower you to do something, but really you're just over delegating. Right. So a lot of times leaders over delegate, but disguise it as empowerment. Another thing that we do really wrong is we focus on outputs instead of outcomes. Right. Like I'm working with a couple of Fortune 500 companies right now, and we're reframing how we think through things. Right. I don't necessarily care the steps that it takes to get there if the end result is what matters the most. So empower your team to focus on the outcomes, because everyone's output is going to be vastly different. And then another thing that I think leaders are doing wrong is we have this over control authority. meaning, a lot of companies have swipe badges, right? So they can see when you clocked in and when you clocked out. And if you're supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, but you get there at 8:01, it's a mark against you. If you leave at 4:59, it's a mark against you. Why do we do those things? Again, if we're leading adults who are leaders in their homes, in their communities, in their networks, treat them like adults.
That's so funny that literally brought me back to like being in a career back before jumping into entrepreneurship. I was that individual that came in and had to swipe the card, and I feel guilty if I was like 3 minutes late. And then I was like, well, I have to deduct that off my lunch, so clock back in 3 minutes early from the lunch. But the way that actually positioned it in a career as an employee, I didn't feel empowered by it. I felt like I was, doing something wrong. And yes, I shouldn't have been 3 minutes late, but things like that happen. So it's intriguing to see a different point at this entrepreneurship. So you say you were consulting with some Fortune 500 companies. Primarily, what do you help focus with on your consulting side? How can you walk us through how you help Fortune 500 companies? Are they primarily who you help, or do you also help entrepreneurs? Who else do you consult?
Yeah. So, I kind of run a band of, I help entrepreneurs who are looking for the next step. Right. And then I also do help the large corporations with their leadership DNA. So with the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, I'm really helping them understand who their leaders are, why they make the decisions that they make. And then once you understand that, then how do you get everyone in the right seats to get to where the company is trying to go? So I do a lot with culture, leadership development, and team alignment with Fortune 500 companies. And then for entrepreneurs that are looking to scale and grow, I really help with the revenue generating processes that it takes to get there. And then once you understand that, how do you scale big? Because, we talked about a growth mindset earlier. Most of the time, it's what's up here that limits us from where we're really trying to go.
Have you ever worked with companies where you literally come into the corporation and you automatically understand that they have maybe the wrong individual in a leadership role, or maybe they're just harder to work with to step into that role?
Oh, wholeheartedly. I call it right butts, right seats. Right?
I like that.
So you need to understand the seats that you're wanting to build first, and then what's the butt that fills that seat the best. And a lot of times we do it the other way around, where we say, oh, well, if I just have the right person, I can then figure out the position that they need to be in. And while in some cases that may be true, in most cases it's not. You need to understand the seats or the accountability that you're looking for a person to fulfill. And then now you can go find that person. And so a lot of times with big companies, I wouldn't even say big companies, with most companies, when we do a leadership DNA, we understand the seats first, and then what butts go in that seat. And now the people that you have, once they take this assessment, who really fits properly in the seats that you're trying to build.
Are you able to share a little bit about the leadership DNA process with us today? Is that something that you're able to deep dive with a little bit?
Yeah. So everything starts with a leadership DNA assessment, which I built a couple of years ago. And it's a scenario-based assessment. So unlike DISC or Caliper, where it's on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you feel? Or do you agree, somewhat agree, not agree, completely dislike? We've all taken those assessments, right? And we kind of know how to game those assessments. Well, the leadership DNA assessment really provides you with a scenario, a real life scenario. And it says, based on this scenario, how would you respond? And there's 4 options. And the beauty is none of the options are wrong. It literally is based on the 4 DNA types that I think that most people have, or that a collective of people have. And so the assessment is really about, what would you do in this situation? How would you respond? What decision would you make? And so the assessment is broken into team. So it's going to give you team scenarios. It's broken into financial. So, hey, the company is underperforming. What would you do from a marketing standpoint? Or what would you do from a financial standpoint to make it happen? It's broken into HR decisions. So all the things that we really want leaders to be able to do, that assessment really breaks it down. And it tells you, based on the 40 questions, you're most likely this type of leader. And then based on that leadership type, it then says, here's where you're really strong. And I don't believe in weaknesses. I believe in blind spots. So then it tells you, these are the blind spots that you need to be aware of. Because now I know, how I like to make decisions. But then based on that, what are the blind spots that I have, or what should I look out for? Or what type of person should I hire to complement the blind spots that I have? And so really that's what the assessment is truly about.
How did you actually come up with the idea of the assessment? Like, was it you? Was it a combination of your team, like going through like specific experiences, like to actually create this? Because you said it was about 40 questions.
Yeah, it's 40 questions. And really, I felt like there was a gap missing because most of the time you're going into Wonderlic or DISC. And while those are great, those are like personality types.
Mhm.
Personality types and leadership types are two totally different things. A lot of us, again, we're leaders in our household, but we might not have a leadership title at work. So when we take a leadership assessment, a lot of times we're thinking in the brain of work, not necessarily what we do at home. So if I say, okay, let me put these real world scenarios, and you all know I'm a member of Forbes, both business and coaches council, right? And so
Mhm.
a lot of research with Forbes, a lot of research with Gallup, a lot of research with McKinsey. And I just looked at what are 40 scenarios that would tell me everything I need to know about my next hire or my potential next client. So I really built it based on a need of I need to know how people make decisions as
Mhm.
it relates to leadership, not their personality. I don't necessarily care how you feel right now, right? I really need to know how would you make this decision right now. And so I felt like that was just missing.
One of the challenges that you mentioned was over delegating. How do you discern what you should delegate and what you should do yourself?
Yeah. So for me, it's really simple. As a leader, I have a must have list or a must do list. I don't create a list of tasks and then prioritize them based on how I feel. It's like these things have to get done. And if I have a list of 10, but only 4 or 5 are must do, then the other 5 could or should be delegated. Right. And so that's how I do. And that's what I teach people is, I'm a big proponent of the Eisenhower matrix. Right. And if you're not familiar with that, it's like a time management skill trait. Right. So there's 4 quadrants, things that are urgent and important. That's quadrant 1. Things that are urgent, or I'm sorry, things that are not important but urgent. That's 2. Things that are not urgent, not important, right? And so it's based on those quadrants. And I base my task on I need to always do things that are in quadrant 2, things that are important, but they're not necessarily urgent, right?
Mhm.
And anything that's not in quadrant 2 should be delegated to someone else.
And I have a question. How do you start identifying the new talent in the next generation?
Great question. So, one is understanding that the next generation is probably the most brilliant generation that we have because this generation is the first generation that had all the crazy cool resources, right? Like, I remember when email first came out and like email was like hard to understand and you really only use it to scan documents. Now we use email in the workplace like text messaging, right? Like emails are abundant, right? But this generation now has had social media for a while. They know how to research on their own. They know how to fact check, right? Like, do you remember when your parents told you something and you just kind of had to believe it, right? And then maybe when you got older, you realized, oh, they were not telling me the truth, or they left this part of the story out. Well, now you can't tell your kids and you can't tell this generation anything because before you can complete the sentence, they're going to know the answers to the test. And so understanding that this is a very resourceful generation, you have to be very innovative in your workplace. So when you're looking for that next hire, you want to have people that are innovative, people that can go in and understand whether it's social media, understanding video technology, understanding AI, and aren't afraid to use it because that's where the world is going. I don't care the industry, I don't care the niche, I don't care the country. That's where the world is going. And so in that next generation, that's what you want. People that you can train how to communicate because this next generation doesn't communicate well, but they can research and they're very resourceful. And so that's what you should be looking for.
Yeah, it's interesting because the way people are communicating and businesses communicating right now, like we went from email and now we're doing Slack. And there was so much
Right.
resistance to using Slack. Like even with some of these other companies that we've been communicating with, they're like, I don't want to do Slack. I just want to do email, but it's just not super efficient. What challenges are you seeing in the workplace when it comes to new technology, the usage of AI? Are you seeing blocks with some of these Fortune 500 companies that are not willing to execute it, or are you seeing more of like they're jumping on it right away?
You're seeing a mixture of both. And I'm going to go to, I don't want to say an extreme, but I have a dear friend who is the head of a government funded entity, and they can't use AI. They can't use anything that's open source. Everything has to be closed because the information isn't always validated and verified.
Mhm.
So I think on that extreme, maybe building your own internal type of AI structure where, okay, it's closed source, but it's going to always retrieve the documents or information that we give it, right? To make
Mhm.
information finding easier for the people that you work with, or information sharing easier for the people that you work with. So I definitely think that machine learning, the utilization of bots to take tasks that, I can do in 5 or 6 hours, but a bot could do it in 30 minutes, right?
Mhm.
I should be more customer facing in my business and let the bots do the behind the scene thing. So I definitely think that all of that is critically important because, again, that's where companies should be going. And if you want a culture that's recruiting and bringing in newer talent, younger talent, multi-generational talent, those are the things you're going to have to do for sure. So definitely we should be embracing, I'm not going to just say AI, I'm just going to say technology enhancements in general, because that's where the world is going. And then for those that can't necessarily use open source items, definitely creating an open source within your closed source is something that you should totally be doing.
Are there specific tools or resources in the AI that you've started to utilize in your companies at this point too?
We actually have built our own like digital twin and digital clone. So, all the knowledge that I have, my clone can recall it much faster than I can. And my clone can be available 24/7 where I can't be. So we're actually creating digital twins of our intellectual property so that whether it's a customer, a client, a prospect, even internal for new hires, can get answers to the tests that they need when maybe someone can't be available. So that's pretty powerful. We're using a company called Delphi AI to build our clones. Very, 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 very tech driven, future forward company. Obviously, ChatGPT is always going to be today the king or queen of information, of source building. And then anything else I tell you is probably going to be outdated tomorrow because things I was using last week, I can't use this week because something new is happening. But like Beehive or Quiller, those type companies for newsletters or for proposal building, those are things that we probably are using every day as well. I wish I could tell you what my video editors and audio editors use. I just don't ask anymore because they give me back
Changes
such
so
great
fast.
content. Right. But again, I mean, just utilizing the resources that are there. I'm going to say you can't go wrong because it's improving every day. I mean, we're in the infancy of AI right now, and it's only going to get completely better and overhauled as days goes on.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's different types of AI that we're even using, and we're building out AI chat bots where we're running ads to Instagram and Facebook forums. And then when people come in through Messenger, we have a bot that automatically goes into conversation with them. And at first I was a little skeptical. I'm like, I don't want to do this. But then I was like, wow, this bot writes better than me. It has like some emotional intelligence. I was like, this is awesome. So I'm really excited about the future of that. But then there's also like little things like if you're doing a video over Zoom and you need to pull a still for a photo on a thumbnail, there's tools that with AI that can better the quality. And, some companies are skeptical of using that because you don't want it to look too AI-y.
Well, it's cool because
Right.
we're utilizing different things too. Like AI has a whole chat conversation through the text messages. They honestly believe they're talking to a person, and it's so cool to see the conversations that go on and how real and empathetic these conversations are. And so it's really intriguing to see where it's
Yeah.
going. But
I thought
also
I was
sales
talking.
calls, AI with sales calls.
I thought I was talking to you forever, and then you just kind of hit me with the knowledge drop that it was a bot talking to me the whole time. I was a little hurt.
Well,
It
we
was a
just
little hurt, but it's
realized
okay.
that, and nobody else knows this, but
Yeah.
we're talking to a clone right now. Like, did you guys know?
Did you know this is? Did you know she's a clone? Yeah, no, we actually had a conversation. You were talking about the clones, and that's what's unique. There's a client of ours that has consumer.ai, and they create, it's called Meet Your AI Twin. So it's very similar to that aspect. And so it's very unique. And then also the importance of building out the customer persona through ChatGPT by getting so fine-tuned and detailed on the person's persona, the client's brand persona. Like you can put in like very specific details and have like 19 different items added in there to create this brand's persona through ChatGPT. And I think a lot of people are always saying like, oh, I can tell it's AI. But at this point, you cannot at some points, because if you utilize it, or when you utilize it the right way, these experiences are coming through, and the AI is the voice of the persona, which is super incredible, super important at this point. So
Totally agree.
I love
Totally
that.
agree.
Well, I wish we had more time to continue the conversation. To line up a little bit on the last question, though, I know we talked a little bit about your podcast in the beginning, but can you share a little bit more about the podcast and who you have on the show, and a little bit more about that? Who are some of your favorite guest episodes that people can check out?
Yeah. So the podcast is all about personal growth, leadership growth, business growth. It's all about being in tune with your because. So whether that's a business because, a leadership because, a personal because, that's really what it's about. So every episode, one, it's all about my guest, right? Like I might ask 3 or 4 questions, but it's all about my guest, their stories, how they've overcome adversity in their business and their personal life and their entrepreneurial journey, like whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And we give tips all throughout the episode. So that's why I love what we do. I did it for purpose to be able to give back. Some of my favorites, like I say, everybody's a favorite, but obviously Les Brown was amazing. Robert Irvine, who another mentor and really good friend, that was just a great conversation. David Pollock was a great conversation. Lauren Cabello, great. I mean, every single one of them are really great conversations, and they all have an inspirational message in all of them.
Oh, I love that. Well, we truly appreciate you for joining the show. Can you share where people can connect with you on either your website or social media?
Yeah, social media, Mick Unplugged on Instagram, and then my name, Mick Hunt, on LinkedIn. That's where I spend most of my time on social. And then my website, MickHuntOfficial.com.
Well, we appreciate you, Mick, for joining us today. Thank you so much for tapping in virtually. Super appreciate you, man. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me, and blessings to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
And for those of you that are watching the show, be sure to subscribe to Broadcast Your Authority anywhere that you tune into the podcast, YouTube, you name it. Leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know who you'd like to see on the show. And we'll see you in the next episode.